Welcome back to another video, and today I'll be ranking my Cosmic Beauty eyeshadow palettes. Welcome back, and where am I gonna start? So I'm gonna do a bit of an intro and then we're just gonna go to the ranking part itself. So I have already actually filmed this video once, and the reason on when you are seeing this on Sunday, when I'm hopefully able to upload this one, is that you haven't gotten the makeup news video, and that is also something that I did film. Unfortunately, something fluffed up in my camera settings. I use an auto mode on my vlogging camera, and it has so far, the whole time I've had the camera now, a couple of years, worked out very well, but somehow it had switched up the mode. So basically both the makeup news video and this particular video that I had already filmed, it kind of filmed them in a very slow, high quality 4K slow mode, sort of like filming video. And when you can imagine that I wasn't that happy when I uploaded the footage. I should have immediately after filming, and that is usually something that I do after I film, that I usually do check out the footage on or at least a couple of clips on my camera before uploading it to my computer to see that did everything go right. But this time I didn't do it, and since I usually only have very limited time to film, which is during Sundays, I didn't have time during last week. At the end of last week, I didn't have time to refilm it. So that's the reason you're now getting this Cosmic Beauty palette ranking. I'm now refilming this because this is relatively should be quite short video to film, and I'm also doing some pre-filming to my upcoming week's video. So on the upcoming week, you will be seeing the normal makeup news video and my collective makeup review. I am exceptionally having work on Sunday. That doesn't happen a lot these days. Usually my paid work these days, it's pretty limited to office hours, but this week we are having a bit of an exception set that I have to work on Sunday, which means that I am kind of doing this one video, which I'm refilming, and then the two others that are going to go up with the normal schedule. So that is something that unfortunately happened with my camera. This is the life when you do this sort of vlogging content. Sometimes things can happen, and at least I do now know that my vlogging camera has the ability to do this sort of very high quality 4K slow motion. And also the other part of the whole slow motion film was that with the slow motion mode, it doesn't capture your voice. So even if I would have been able to somehow edit the speed of the image to a normal speed, there wasn't any audio on it. So that's also the reason why I wasn't unfortunately able to use the footage. But that out of the way, let's start now. I'm gonna put timestamps on everything so you can just skip directly. So we're doing something very not exciting second time now, which is ranking my Cosmic Beauty palettes. This has been an indie brand that I think has now surpassed Odensai, which for the longest time was my #1 indie brand, especially in terms of eyeshadow palettes. But I do think Cosmic Beauty has been a bit more now consistent and maybe bringing out a bit more exciting color stories, and their pricing is pretty decent for being an indie brand. So without further talking, let's start ranking the Cosmic Beauty palettes that I do own. So I have altogether 7 Cosmic Beauty palettes. I do try with this brand and a lot of other, especially indie brands that I do favor in terms of eyeshadow. I do try to limit aquarium palettes that I genuinely think that I will be using in terms of a color story. I try to avoid this collect them all mentality, because that is, at the end of the day, waste of money if you kind of have to feel that you have to collect all the palettes from a particular brand, even if you kind of already see that you don't necessarily like all the color stories. So this is by no ways a complete overview of all Cosmic Beauty's palettes. They have now come out with quite a lot. So these are the ones that I have gotten and are still in my collection. So on 7th spot is this one. So this is the Royal Rose palette, and this I think is this was their original first palette, but this was not the palette that made them popular. It was the Serenity palette that came after this one. But this is basically what I would say a pretty traditional warm tone leaning colorful palette that then also has neutrals to go with it. In terms of quality, I actually do think what makes this quite excellent, because this is truly going to be quite of an older palette, is that there is the matte quality especially is quite good still compared to their newer palettes. The shimmers are the ones that in this particular palette you can kind of see the age and why this sort of ranking. Also with their original palettes, they did more mattes than shimmers. I like a 50-50 split. So that is the second reason why this is ranking the last. So this purely because of the age, because as a color story, it is not at the end of the day that unique compared to what we have seen later on with their color stories. But it's still a very nice palette, if considering that I do, especially for summer, I kind of like this color story. Then on spot number 6, so this is actually their newest palette. So this is the Starlight Society palette, and I did have bit difficulties in like ranking this one because in terms of like originality of the color story, I do actually think this is something quite different, like at least within like my makeup collection. I'm pretty sure someone has done this color story before with eyeshadow palettes, but within my makeup collection this is very unique. However, I did have a bit of like things with this palette. First of all, at the end of the day, it's a blue purple heavy palette, and with my makeup preferences, this does have like the undertones of blues and purples that I do prefer, but blues and purples generally, even though I'm actually wearing a like muted purple look today on my eyes, I'm using the Dead Roses 2 palette from Bella Beauty bar that I'm still currently testing that one out. But anyway, back to this one. So it is majority a blue purple heavy palette, which is why I think it was never going to rank to the top part of my Cosmic Beauty palette. And second, what I didn't like about this one were the shimmers. They did something very odd with the shimmers because this was the next one that launched from the Lovers palette, which we are gonna see also in this particular ranking. And with the Lovers palette, I was especially impressed that they had upgraded their shimmers to be very sparkly. With this one, I felt we kind of went backward. We kind of had also these very emollient shimmer formulas that at least on my eyelids did decrease. So the fact that because the color story still as a whole is not like my number one, and because especially the shimmers were kind of a letdown, that's the reason why this is ranking on place number 6. Then on place number 5 we have this one. So this is their sort of variation of a rainbow palette. So this is the Delicious Delights, and I do think if you are looking for a good like colorful rainbow palette from an indie brand, I think you might be still able to get this one. I'd actually still think this is a pretty decent buy. This again has maybe a bit of the older shimmer formula. Again, it's a bit more matte heavy. What I do appreciate with this one is that you can use this as a cohesive palette, because with some of the colorful palettes, especially if they're like pastel heavy palettes, it can be that there are only like pastel shades and then you actually have to like go in for depth, you have to go for other palettes. But I do think as a cohesive colorful palette this is good. However, why this is still like ranking on the like lower half of this particular ranking is that it is still a like what I would say a very like basic rainbow palette. You don't like need to have too many of these in your collection in order to have a pretty good gradient of like colorful tones. But I do think if you are still like looking for a good rainbow palette option from indie brands, I still would think that if you're able to find this one, I would still like recommend it. So on place number 4 we are having the Lovers palette. I did have to do some consideration how I'm gonna rank this one, because I think if you watched my palette rankings and reviews from the palettes I bought during last year and was able to actually review and test out during last year, I had very high expectations for this one in terms of the color story, and we kind of got there like halfway. Why this still managed to rank spot number 4 is that first of all, I do adore this color story. I think as a color story this has everything like for my particular makeup preferences. It has neutrals, there are some pinks in this one. We also do have kind of like these more like muted blue and green tones that I do enjoy. The shimmer quality in this one is the best shimmer quality so far, at least from the palettes that I have tried from them. These were very sparkly and very elevated shimmers from what we had seen from the shimmer formula before. The reason why this is, however, ranking number 4 and not any higher, I did discuss this in quite extensively when I was reviewing this one. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened with the pastel shades in this one. I have to build them all up a lot, and for example, compared to the Delicious Delights palette, so this one that also has a lot of pastels, the pastels in this one work much better compared to the pastels in this one. So I don't know what happened with the formula. I saw almost only positive reviews about this particular palette, so it could be that I got a bad batch or something in terms of like my palette, but I still, for the color story and the shimmer formula, they do like still rank for me this quite highly to the like better part of this particular palette ranking. But as I said, unfortunately, because the pastels of this particular palette, there was like quite many of them, I did have to take that into consideration. So that is the reason why this was never going to be like my top palette. If the pastels would have worked out perfectly, this would be like all like fighting for the number 1 spot in terms of the Cosmic Beauty palettes that I have. Then to the top 3. So in terms of the colorful palettes from them, this was actually something that I was pretty like, I went like that, okay, why did I wait so long to get this one? So this is how do you say it? This is the Season palette. So this was their holiday palette 2 years ago, but I got this during last year when Mono Shop was having a pretty good, I think Black Friday sale. And in terms of like colorful palettes, everything in this one works out well. There were like a few shades where I had a bit of like I had to do some nitpicking, but in terms of like cohesive quality, this really like matches perfectly. The shimmers are quite shiny and sparkly. All the colorful shades, even most of the pastel ones, work out very well. They blend out together very well, and this is just altogether a very fun palette. Only maybe like minor thing with this one, I have set this with also the Odin's I Merry Christmas palette. There is a green row in this one because this I think is meant to be like on your face a colorful Christmas palette, and it is quite a good color story for that. But I am having a bit difficulties mixing the green row with the rest of the color stories. I don't have any issues like mixing the more neutral orangey row, the purple row or the pink row together, but the green row kinda is something that I usually like then just treat as a separate, like I can do an all green look with this one, which of course widens your options, but I do like with my eyeshadow palettes the fact that I can mix and match the different like colors in it together, because I do think that is a sort of the fun part of a very well executed color story, that you can mix and match between different kind of shades, but still a like banger quality, and even with the like small things, something that again, if you're able to get this one, but this was a limited edition holiday release, so with this one it might be that you're not able to get it anymore, but still a very beautiful colorful palette, and from all the like more colorful cosmic beauty palettes, this actually ranks the highest. Then the last two, and you could probably guess from the previous one that these are a bit more on the toned down side. So the Muse palette, I think this was the longest time my favorite cosmic beauty palette, but we do have now one palette that did surpass this one. So this was actually for the longest time the most neutral palette they had in their line. Now when you're looking at it, you're going like that, okay, but that isn't very neutral. It's like muted colorful, but it is still like majority colorful palette, and I do have to fully agree, but for the longest time this was the most neutral thing you could get from them. And I do still think in terms of like the grunginess and just the like combination, this has the kind of combination, you get a bit of greens and pinks, which for me is actually a color combo that I do enjoy. And with this particular one, the greens and pinks are kind of with the undertones that I can actually like combine together. But you also do get like fun things. You have a bit of like yellow in this one, or not yellow, but there's like the lime green, yeah. There's the lime green in this one, and you do get also some purple tones, and you do actually, you can get a neutral look out of this one. You don't get a lot of neutral looks with this one. I think you are pretty limited with the, there's like a few, like I think altogether like 4 brown tone leaning-esque shades, and then with the shimmers. The shimmer quality in this one, because the Muse is an older palette, you can definitely like see it, and having used this, I think I used this a few times during last year, the age, especially with the shimmers, is beginning to show, so this might be a palette that even though I do adore the color story, I might have to declutter this at some point purely because it is getting on the older side. But I am going to be taking this into my rotation at some point during this year again, so I'm just going to be able to test out how the shades are still working. But in terms of like grungy color story that kind of has some neutral elements to it, this is, I still think in terms of like color story, a very like, at least for my preferences, a favorite, and has a very like has a very stellar place in my collection. And then the number 1 spot. So I did rave about this palette during last year a lot, so you probably are not gonna surprise. So neutrals, I got this as a Christmas present already a year ago, but I wasn't able to test this out until the like beginning of last year because of the fact that I got this as a Christmas present. So this I think officially can be said that is now the most neutral thing you can get from their collection. They also came out during last year with a cool tone, like this came out with a cool Trolls palette, but I don't think that was as such a cool tone neutral palette. I think it was actually like a blue mauvish leaning palette, and then they actually came out with a like a smoky gray leaning palette, which I do think actually is like more like corresponding as being the cool tone neutral option. But this is the warm tone neutral option. I actually prefer my palettes to be more like cool tone leaning in terms of the neutrals because of my undertones, but something about the combination, I think if I would have to just keep one warm tone neutral palette in my collection, this would be the palette that I would keep, because this seems to be a neutral color story that inspires me endlessly, because I think what this does quite well is that you kind of have the basic elements for a basic warm tone neutral look, but then you get something fun, because with this one, like, you have a bit of olives over here, then you get a pop of like mustard yellow over here, And then I think you also think with the shimmers, like all the shimmers in this one are quite like, there are a few duochrome shimmers in this one, but then you have like a very sort of like basic shimmers for those days that you just want something very easy and quick and you don't want like necessarily anything that pops that well. And all the colors in this one, they combine very well together. I didn't have any issues with any of the shades in this one, so matte and shimmers both excellent quality. I do think I think there's the one like red multichrome, red cream leaning multichrome over here. This was maybe a bit something that did tend to crease after a very long day, but I do remember the creasing wasn't that bad. I was able to like manage at least with my eyelids. So if you're looking for your ultimate warm tone neutral palette that kinda does it all and is good quality and still as an indie brand very decently priced, I would still go for this one. I do think these might be like their permanent line at least currently, so you should be able to get this one. And yeah, would 100% recommend. And interesting to see, since Cosmic Beauty is probably going to be launching, they have already launched like one small palette during this year, but I skipped that one because I didn't think the color story added that much to my collection. But interesting to see that are they gonna come out with a new palette this year that is gonna replace this in some time as my number one. We shall see what the future will hold. That was my ranking of my Cosmic Beauty palettes. Comment down below maybe what are your favorite Cosmic Beauty palettes, or if you have some other indie brand that you love a lot, then what are your maybe top 3 palettes from that brand. If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from our future uploads. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope I'll see you soon on the video. Bye bye!